Hello, team.
Hello. Hello.
Oh,
Hi, how you doing?
Good,
bye bye.
thanks. Oh, good, thanks.
Yeah, bye, thanks.
Oh, good, good, good. So today we're having a look at your draft that I got sent through. Is that right?
Yep.
Good. All right.
Mute, by the way, Tony.
All right. Okay. So, as a general structure, this is looking really nice. So you're certainly very much on the right track. Just a couple of things to give you some early feedback on as I scroll through. So in your introduction, what we also want is a little bit about your process. So who did you talk to? How many of the stakeholders? What was your process of collecting data? So did you interview them? Did you set up user stories? Did you what? So what we want is, in terms of trying to understand what you came up with, we need to understand your process of collecting. Not a huge amount, just like a paragraph or so, that just describes what you did to get that information and how did it come about. Okay, does that make sense?
Yep.
Great. So if we scoot down to your scope section, what I'm interested in is your sections 2.2 and 2.3, and they're obviously absent. And I'm just a little confused because you can't really write an RTM without them. I'm wondering what your plans for those sections are, or what how you go about constructing the RTM.
What you are saying is how did we write the RTM without having written the 2.2 and 2.3?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a little bit backward for us. So we decided to write the RTM first, and then write the 2.2 and 2.3 later on.
Okay, so just be really careful when you do that, because the RTM is a product of the actual requirements document. And so what the requirements document allows you to do is write out in super plain language from the start to the process to the end of the process. Got a process diagram in there, which is really great. I'd actually move that up here. And what you want to do is kind of talk to all of the different aspects. So what we're looking for is, what device is this likely to be used on? What platform is somebody going to, are you going to be publishing it on? What kind of browsers, versions, any of that kind of stuff as well. So we need all of that kind of contextual stuff. And then we need, well, what are the main components of your system? Who are the main users of your system? All of that, because that will actually help you make sure that you haven't forgotten any components. If you go straight into the RTM, there's nothing there to check against. So it's entirely possible that you think these are the major things, but you might have forgotten some because you haven't actually written out the process start to finish and described it in lots of detail. So it's good that you've got an RTM. It's really great that you've got that. And it's really good that you've got a process diagram. But without the front piece, you can't ensure that what you've got is actually correct. And I can look to what you've got and say, yeah, that looks kind of okay, but I can't yet tell whether it is a full system specification yet, because you haven't actually done the requirements document. So spend a little bit of time going back and writing that document. And once you've done that, just double check that everything is there as it should be. Because what we really can't see in your RTM is, for example, does somebody even log on? There's nothing in there about, you know, whether somebody off the street can suddenly just go to your site and start manipulating data. There's literally nothing there about security or who does what or what is the start point. In your picture, there's something in one of your process maps. There's this fail state. So it says something like startup, or you fail, yes or no. We have no idea about what your fail state actually is. And it's never been mentioned until that diagram in 2.5. So what I'm trying to show you here is what you've got are some good hypothesized ideas, but they aren't necessarily comprehensive, nor are they necessarily correct because you haven't done that requirements document first. So only when you go, okay, let's assume I'm a user. What is the very first thing I do? Well, I go to this URL. What's the very first thing I see? It's this screen that has these things on it. Okay, well, what do I do then? Do I log on? Yes, well, have I logged on before? If I haven't, I need a registration component. So I need to have specifications for registration. If I have forgotten my password, what do I do then? Once I've logged on, what's the next thing that I see? What are all of the parts of it? So what you're not getting in your version yet is all of that specification and detail. And that's going to be a problem for you later because you're going to code big bits, but you're going to miss all the little bits. And that's going to work effectively. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just settle down on what you've got so far. Take a step back. Create the step-by-step. Imagine I'm starting from here and finishing here. What are all of the itty-bitty things? You've got to document all of those out, and only then can you know you've got the right RTM and the use cases. But you've got a very good start. It just concerns me that it's not quite right because we don't have the front side. Okay?
Yep.
Right.
Apart from that, it's actually like your example is really strong. Your pictures are really nice. All of that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of requirements-y scope part. That's the major area for improvement there. If we look at the release schedule, we don't need all of this written commentary. What we actually want are Gantt charts. So we want 3 different Gantt charts. So Agile 1 is all of these. So what you've got is all of the content there, but you need to articulate that out into a Gantt chart, which is, this is the major task, and these are all the sub-parts of it. This is the time that each one of those is going to take over the time of the Agile cycle. And what are the resources being put to it? And resources in project management mean you. So who is allocated to those particular tasks? And so what this is going to show you is who's meant to be working on which part of the build or the project more broadly at different parts in different weeks. And then you can see really clearly who's meant to be doing what and how it all fits and what has to come first and what has to come second and things like that. You can't figure that out when it's next block. And also, every time we have an Agile report, we're going to go back to this Gantt chart and we're going to revise it. Now, you can't revise a massive amount of written text in the same way. We want to be able to see comparisons and slight changes. So the visual representation of a milestone or a Gantt chart is going to make that much easier for you as well. So whoever's responsible for that, that's really good detail, but what you need to do is just articulate it out into 3 Gantt charts, Agile 1, Agile 2, and Agile 3. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep. So we have to like make 3 Gantt chart. Like, should we include the critical path for those ones or ADM?
Yeah, if you know that, if you know that kind of stuff, which comes first and what are all your dependencies, all of that stuff. Yep. As much information as you can know right now. And again, while you can start doing that, if this is your part, it's not until the requirements document is written and the RTM is updated, are you going to know that you've got everything as well. So it's fine for you to start rewriting this part, but when the other people who are responsible for the other sections have finished those, you have to update yours accordingly just to make sure it's consistent.
Yep, that is what we are doing right now.
Awesome, terrific.
Yep.
And technical requests. Let me just have a look at that. Yeah, so what we also want is not just what you need, but when you need it. So give your client information about whether they will need to provide, for example, Nectar hosting at the end of the project when it's ready to go live, or you guys actually need it to be used in the development. So it's not just what you need, it's who needs to provide it. Is it your client or is it university? So, do we need extra things put in our lab or whatever? And when is that actually needed? Because not everything is necessarily needed now. So, for example, hosting might happen later, or it might happen now, depending on what you're using it for. So just augment that section on resources with a little bit more specification on when these resources are actually required in the life cycle of your whole project. Is it first semester, second semester, Agile 3, whatever it might be.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
With the
Yeah.
requests bit, did you want it separated for your request for the university and the client?
Yeah.
With the
So
request
either-
about Nectar Cloud, would that be a request for the which one, the client or the
Yeah.
university?
Well, actually, it's a request for the client through the university. That's the weird one out of all of
Okay. Yep.
So the university actually provides the accounts,
Yep.
but only an individual researcher can request one. So you can't request one. I can't do it for you because I'm a different researcher with my own cloud.
Yep.
So Tom will have to do it on your behalf. So that's the kind of thing you just document out a little bit more.
Great. Thanks.
And the rest of it is fine. So on the whole, I really like what you've done in terms of the things you've created. There's just some problems about making sure that it's deep enough, that it's actually correct, that it's represented in the right way. And then I think you're definitely okay.
Great.
Do you have any specific questions I can help you with?
Can't remember any off the top of my head. I think we discussed some.
Yeah, I actually have one.
Oh, go ahead,
Sure.
Kim.
For the scope part. So aside of actually writing out all the requirements from the client for our end product, we need to be writing out like the process of how a user is going to see the application on the website as well, right? Like from start to finish. Every step.
That's going to be, exactly. So we basically write out as much detail as we can that shows, and you can do it through user stories or you can just write it out in a requirements document, it doesn't matter. You basically start, if somebody comes to your thing, what do they do? And then all the way at the end, and then they've got what they have come here to get. So you might have different paths. So you might have, a researcher starts here and they do these things and it outputs to a research report, or a user does these things and it outputs to something else. So again, this is why you needed last time to figure out who your users are, to figure out the different types of paths there might be through your system. And that's kind of what you have to document in that front section. Anybody who starts to anybody who finishes, and there might be a couple of them.
Yeah.
Okay. On the whole, how is your team going? I know that it's a potentially stressful time with everything strange and different. And I know lots of people are struggling with part-time jobs and accommodation and being away from family and friends and all of those kinds of things. How's your team hanging together? Are you okay?
Yeah, I think we're doing well. We've definitely figured out our different roles since the last assignment, and we've done a much better job on this one, I think. Improving as a team, getting more comfortable with each other. Team meetings are much better as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's really, really good to hear. I'm so over the moon about that. That's happy. If things get stressful, and it's entirely okay that they will, because you've got an assessment and then we go into the actual build, and sometimes that causes a different level of stress as well. So as things progress, if anything starts to get uncomfortable or stressful for you, please let me know. University has tons of different resources we can assist you with, whatever that might be. But just let me know if anything is going on that you need any help with. I'm very happy to help in any way that I can. But other than that, what I see is good work. It just needs some augmentation. I think you sound like you're kind of okay. But if in the meantime you need to contact me or send me an email, please feel free to do that. Okay?
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up now. But like I said, call through, email, whenever. Otherwise, I am very excited to see your full document next week.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very
You
much.
take care.
Thank you.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.